There are men currently digging in my yard. And I don't mind because they're construction crews, but they keep giving me looks because I'm recording, and I don't like that. Hello everybody, my name is Kelsey, and we're about to get very, very nerdy with some new 5-star predictions. So I've done this on this channel a couple of times at this point. I'll leave them linked down below if you'd like to check those out. But every year or so, probably, I think at this point, I do like a check-in. I've read all the ones that I put on my most recent 5-star prediction, and I make new predictions. So that's what we're here to do today. I've officially finished all of the books that were on the previous list, so now we get to talk about those real quick, and then my new 5-star predictions, which I think I've got a good bunch here, so I'm excited. So let's just dive right into the ones that I've already done. So I will chapter this video if you are not interested in like how I actually thought about the books. If you just want to go straight into the books that I have for my next 5-star prediction, I'll make sure I leave that chapter down below so you can decide wherever you would like to go. Kicking off that list is the one that I was actually holding out on, but I've now finished, and that is Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson. I heard really good things about this author. She's done a few, at this point I think there are 3 separate standalones, although according to Goodreads this is going to be a new series, like there's a second one planned, but at the time that this came out it was a standalone. I'd had it on my shelves for quite a while. I was interested in her first book as well, which is An Enchantment of Ravens, and I was like, I just need to read one of her books to see if she's actually for me, because everything people were saying about her, like writing and her stories, felt like I'd like it. So I put this on this list, and I ended up giving this one 4 stars. I really did enjoy it. It had a lot of things going for it. I think it just played really well into, it felt like every other YA fantasy out there, and there was nothing really specifically unique, let's say, about this story. But I still really enjoyed my time reading it. That doesn't mean like I didn't like it. Clearly I gave it 4 stars. It just wasn't quite the 5-star, but I'm still going to give this author's other works a try. But yes, this one was technically a miss, but like just barely a miss, you know? The next one was A Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J. Maas. This is the most recent one in her ACOTAR series. I suspect I'd give it 5 stars because I'd given everything else in the series 5 stars, and I was just like, it just makes sense. Unfortunately, I gave this one 4.5. It still is really high up there because, like, it's a Sarah J. Maas book. I'm going to be completely sucked in by a Sarah J. Maas book. That's just how it works at this point, from like the 2 series of hers that I have read. So there were just bits and pieces of this that felt a little off, and I don't know if it was because like this is now a branch off of the series. Like it continues with the plot kind of from the original series, but it follows a different character. We follow more character development rather than plot in this book, and so there's just a few things that I felt like were a little bit different than I suspected, and just some character things that didn't quite work for me, but it still got 4.5 stars. Like, I still am utterly obsessed with this series. I loved this book, and I will love this series with my whole heart, but yeah, it unfortunately got 4.5. I'm saying unfortunately even though 4.5 is like a fantastic score, but yeah, for the purposes of this video, this one also was just like the tiniest bit amiss. The next one was Portrait of a Scotsman by Evie Dunmore. This is the 3rd in the A League of Extraordinary Women's series. I think the 4th one is supposed to come out later this year. We'll see what happens with that. But it basically follows these 4 friends who are all part of the Oxford suffragette movement, and each book follows their respective romance. So this one specifically follows Hattie, and she, I believe her father has like a lot of money or something, and so like she's supposed to marry a nobleman, and so she ends up forced kind of into this marriage with this Scotsman, and they go on honeymoon to Scotland, and it's the two of their relationship. There's a lot about this that is very different than the other 2 books, but I think I gave the other 2 books 5 stars, so I suspected I would love this one. This one again got 4 stars. I don't know what it was. There's a lot, like I said, a lot about this book that's different than the other two, and I think it worked really well for this character, but as far as what I suspected and what I wanted from the series, this wasn't quite it. I still think the other two in the series are better in my opinion, but I still loved my time reading it. I think the characters worked really well. There was just a couple of things between them that like didn't work so hot, but yeah, I ended up giving this one 4 stars. The next one was The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune, which I did finally give 5 stars to. This book blew my expectations out of the water. I thought I was going to love it. I wasn't sure why, but based on everyone's opinions of this book, and a bunch of people from like all different like accounts that I follow liked different things that I liked. Like there was so much consistency on the fact that this was 5 stars that I was like, there's no way it can't be. I don't know why it can't be, but it can't be anything but 5 stars. And this book is utterly amazing. It's one of my favorites of all time. I just loved the characters. I loved everything about them. So yeah, the characters, you fall head over heels for all these characters, because it follows this guy who's part of the, I always forget what he's part of, a department in charge of magical youth, and so he goes to all of these houses that are like homes for them, and they basically like make sure that everything's up to code, everything's good to go, and he's sent on this special mission to this house in the middle of nowhere, and the headmaster is supposed to be a little like there's something off, and they're asking the higher ups in his job are asking him to kind of like see what's going on. And so it's this hodgepodge group of like kids that are all so bizarre, but I loved every single one of them. I loved it. It was amazing. It got 5 stars. The hype is real. The next book that I had on this list was When a Scot Ties the Knot by Tessa Dare. This is one of, I think this was the very first buddy read that we did with my friends Taylor and Brooke. Now we've read like a bunch of Tessa Dare books. We're going through her entire backlist. But the very first book that we buddy read was this one. I'm a sucker for a Highland romance. I suspected this was going to get 5 stars, and it did. I loved the relationship between our main 2 characters. It's very much a, I feel like there's a marriage of convenience in here at some point as well, but like just the like sweet girl and like the brutish guy, like there's just something about that, you know, that like works for me, and I loved it so much. Now, is this my favorite Tessa Dare book of all time? No, there are definitely other ones that we have read since then that I think are the best, but this is still way up there, still got 5 stars. I really enjoyed the relationship between our main 2 characters, and like it was almost guaranteed to be 5 stars. So this one was kind of like a slam dunk for me. So yes, it got 5 stars. And then the very last book on this list is The Roommate Risk by Talia Hibbert. This is one that I think is one of her more earlier books. I can't remember. It's been a little bit of time since I've read it. But I wanted to read it because it recently got a new cover change and a new title change. And it was one of her ones that she was the most proud of. And I had read the Brown Sisters trilogy at this point, and I loved that so much. I want to dive into a lot of her books. Actually, if I could read all of her books, that would be great. And so I was like, I'll start with this one. She's really proud of it. I'm very excited. It's ended up getting 3.5 stars from me. I don't remember my exact thoughts on this because it has been a while, but it just kind of fell flat. Like there wasn't much of a plot that I could really get connected to. The characters just kind of started liking each other out of nowhere. It felt like there wasn't any build up for that. It just started. So once we got about halfway through, then things started to pick up, but the very beginning of the book was super boring. I couldn't get into it, and then by the end of the book, I was more invested in what was going on. So I did end up giving it 3.5 stars because of that, because even though I did enjoy the latter half of the book, it took me a while to get into it before I got to that part where I enjoyed it. So that's it for the ones from the most previous version that I did. Again, I'll leave all of those linked below. I'll also leave my wrap-up list down below if you'd like to check it out. I can't remember what month each of these are, but if I remember, I'll put it down below if you'd like to see like actual thoughts when I finished reading them. But moving on to the second half of the video, the books that I'm now predicting for the future. I do have 6 again, and I think I've got a good range here that could work really, really well. I would say like out of the first time I did this, I think this was the better, like I've gotten better. Like the second set that I just wrapped up, I had better like ratings for than the first time I did it, I want to say. So I feel like I had 1 5-star in that one total. And this one I had a couple, and a lot of them were 4 stars and up. So all that's making me feel like I'm on the right track. So I'm hoping that these are the ones where I do all the 5 stars things. But starting with the first book on this list, I'm going to go with A Touch of Darkness by Scarlett St. Clair. This is a Hades and Persephone modernized retelling. I am not going to lie, I don't know the actual plot of this. I just know it's a retelling. Oh, that's right, I got this from my friend. Oh, I forgot this was a gift. This is like a retelling, but it's set in kind of like a city, but there's still magical powers from what I can gather. So I think it's gonna be very good. I've heard nothing but good things about this series. This was so popular on Book Talk and just like the book internet in general a couple of years ago, and I'm behind the times. I do need to read it, but I've heard that Scarlett St. Clair is really good at having those like good smutty scenes in her stories as well, and I'm always down for a Hades and Persephone retelling. There's not many Hades and Persephone retellings that I have read that I disliked, so I suspect this one will be up there as far as the list goes. I don't know when I'm gonna get around to it. I did have it on a couple of TBRs, so hopefully soon, but yeah, it's real. I mean, I've only heard good things, and I think it's gonna be right up my alley. The next one is one that I don't actually own, but it's probably in my mailbox today as of recording this, and that is Wicked Beauty by Katie Robert. This is the most recent one in her Dark Olympus series. This is the 3rd that just came out at the beginning of June, I want to say. She's got way more planned. Like, according to Goodreads, there's only one more that she has definitely planned, but she has come out and said that she's got up to like 10 like books in this entire series planned, maybe more, and I'm very excited about it. But I have adored the first 2 books in this series. This is again another kind of like Greek mythology retelling of sorts. This one specifically follows Achilles, Patroclus, and Helen, and it does have a competition aspect to it because they're all competing for like this very specific role in the world. But this world basically is set in this like city, and the city is called Olympus. And there are what are called the 13. And those are like the big gods, like Zeus, Poseidon, Apollo, Demeter, things like that. So you've got all those big names, and those are called like titles, and so some of them are handed from father to son, some of them are someone just picks it, some of them are competition. So in the 3rd book, we are competing for this one of the 13 who is like ruling the city. And so each book follows a bunch of different Greek gods and goddesses and characters and things that you will find in Greek mythology. And like I've said, I loved the first 2 of the series. The first one was Hades and Persephone. The second one was Psyche and Eros. And then, like I said, this one is kind of a throuple between these 3, which is not based, I don't think, on like a specific myth. I think it's just based on these 3 characters. And I'm very interested about this one. But I've given both of the books in this series 5 stars, and I suspect that this one will be right up there with this one. This is my favorite series by her, and I'm so excited. I want it right now. The next one is a little bit different as far as this list goes, and that is Me and My Dad and the End of the Rainbow, and this is by Benjamin Dean. This is a middle grade book that I got because of Gavin. I mean, all my middle grade books I get because of Gavin at this point. But it follows this kid named Archie, whose dad ends up coming out as gay and then takes his son to Pride, but like I think the kid doesn't realize that's what has happened. So it's him and this kind of kid brain understanding what is going on. Now Gavin cried, I think, at this book, and he loves this one so much, and he's never steered me wrong as far as middle grade recommendations go. So I think this one's going to be super cute. I think it's going to hit all of the heartstrings and pull at all of the things. So I'm giving this one a 5-star prediction just because I think it's going to hit all of the emotions. The next one is very similar because of the last list, and that is Under the Whispering Door by TJ Klune. Everyone seemed to really enjoy this. I have a lot of friends who read this and like cried and said it was amazing. So I have high hopes for this one, but because I gave the last one 5 stars, I'm suspecting that this one's going to be just like that. So I'm going to predict that this one will also get 5 stars. I know it takes place in this kind of in-between life and death. It's called Caro's Crossing, and it follows our main character Wallace, who ends up like dying, and he's kind of stuck in this in-between, and he doesn't really know what to do. And I think it's him at this crossing, and maybe this guy he likes helping him. I don't know. There might be a romance element to it. There might not be. I'm not 100% sure if I've made that up at this point. But I think I'm going to love it because I loved the other one, and because, again, same as the other one, everybody from all walks of life have loved this book. So that gives me hope. Next one is A Kingdom of Flesh and Fire by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This is the second in her From Blood and Ash series. I adored the first one. I thought it was amazing. I gave it 5 stars. I was utterly obsessed with it, and I still haven't gotten into the second one yet. But this is the sequel, and I think I'm going to love it because I loved the first one. I mean, that's really the only way I can describe it, is I fell in love with the first one, so I feel like I'm going to fall in love with the second one. I don't know. Maybe that's not going to work, but I have high hopes for this one, so yes. This is on here because it's a sequel, and I adored the first one. And the very last book on this list is Book Lovers by Emily Henry. This is her most recent release. It came out in, I think, May this year. And I have, as of recording this, I have finished both of her other books that I've read, which is Beach Read and People We Meet on Vacation. I gave them both 5 stars. So I think that this one is going to be another 5-star prediction, just based on how I felt about the other 2 that she has written. I don't know. I think it's going to be great. It's about people who work in the book industry falling in love. Need I say more? But all of her books have some sort of like harder conversation underneath it, so I'm curious to see what that one's going to be here. And it's always done so well, and I think this is going to be just a beautiful read. And literally everyone who's read it has said this is good. I have not heard a bad word about this book at all. Everyone likes it, so I think it's going to be great. So this is a 5-star prediction. And that is it. Those are my wrap-up / most recent 5-star predictions. I'll probably come back to you in another year or so with more now that when I finish these. But yeah, I'm feeling good. You know, I'm feeling good about this list. I think I've got a good range of stuff, and I think the reasoning behind them is gonna work really well. I don't know, I'm trying to justify it to myself. But please let me know if you've read any of the books that I mentioned in today's video. I will always leave them linked down below as well. Or if there's a book that you think you would give a 5-star prediction to, tell me some of your predictions. I would love to know. But if you like this video, and I very much hope that you did, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe down below if you would like to be part of this awesome growing family. I've also got all my social media down there, as well as other fun bookish links. Don't forget to check all that out, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!